Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com and Dev Nursery, and what I want to do today is talk about Ballerina some more, but I want to talk about, I'm going to start doing some videos on the HTTP library. Okay, so let me create a new file. This one's going to be specifically on using the client object. Okay, so let's import our library. So import Ballerina. Oh, I didn't name the file a Ballerina extension. Rename .bal. Okay, so import ballerina/io. Import ballerina/http. Okay, then function, public function main. There we go. So those are all sort of our boilerplate setup. Now what we want, okay, is to create a client. A client is going to be this object that's going to hold a sort of a base URL, which we can do an API call from. Okay, so we're going to do var client equals. Actually, what I want to do is this. I want to do HTTP client. Okay, because then when I do new over here, the cool thing about the way like objects work in Ballerina is that if you type it, then when you use the new keyword, it automatically knows which constructor you're running. You don't have to specify it again. So I don't have to do like new HTTP client. So kind of like in like Java, I'd have to be like, type variable name equals type type declaration. You're typing the same thing multiple times. Okay, and let me just go back and refer to this real quick. Client JP. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, and then in here, in the new, the constructor only takes one argument, which is the URL we want to pull data from. So I'm gonna go head over to the Json placeholder, and I only want to copy in the base URL. Okay, I don't need to copy in the endpoint. Okay, because you can use the same client for multiple calls. That's the beauty of it. So if you're going to be calling that same API at several different endpoints, then you can just keep it like that. Okay, and I don't want to call this client because that's a reserved word. So we're just going to call this JP for the JSON placeholder. Okay, cool. Now what I want to do is make a call to that thing. So I'm going to say var response. We're going to create a variable called response. It's going to hold our response. And that is going to be JP. That's our client object. And then I'm going to use the method get that it has. That allows us to get something from, and then we specify the endpoint. So it'd be /post/1. And it'll say, okay, get it from that endpoint. Now at this point I have nothing to print yet because all we get here is a response object. And let's just show you that first. So print, IO print. Oh, forgot a semicolon. IO print. And I need a semicolon over here as well. There we go. IO print line. And then we're going to print response. Okay. Now what happens here, so if I run this file, client.bal, it'll compile. And see, all we ended up getting was an HTTP response object. Okay, we want to see the actual data that's in there, so we're going to have to do a few things. There's actually a method on HTTP response object called get Json Payload. But a weird thing about Ballerina is that if a constructor has an optional, like it could receive an error. So basically the HTTP response constructor basically says, hey, there's a chance that this thing might error, so it has like an optional error return value. Ballerina will throw an error unless you confirm the type of the object, because it could be an error, it could be an HTTP response object, and you haven't confirmed it. So what we have to do, so watch, I'll show you what I mean. Like if I just type in response.get Json Payload like this, it's going to throw me an error. Okay, so see that it says undefined function. Okay, if you read the documentation, the function totally exists. but it'll throw you an error when you try to compile it. See? Okay. The reason is because the compiler is not 100% sure that it is what it is and doesn't want to move forward. So what you have to do is you have to do something like this. You have to do if response is HTTP response. Okay, so if it is that, then we can do this. Because then, now the compiler knows that you've confirmed that this is only going to be used as if it's this type of object. Okay? Response. I gotta assign it to something. Let's see what it's saying now. Yep, I need to assign the actual result to something where it doesn't do anything. So we'll say var message equals. Okay, and then basically what we're going to do, I wonder if they're block scoped. I'm actually not sure what the scoping is if I declare a variable inside an if block. So let's find out. So let's try to print message. Undefined symbol message. Okay, they are block scoped. Good to know. So in that case, if I want to have that outside of it, let's try to see if I can do a ternary operator instead. Okay, I haven't tried that yet. Okay, so let's say var message equals response is HTTP response. Okay, and then we'll do response dot get Json payload, and if not, no. Okay, yeah, that looks good to me. Although it doesn't like the whole undefined field get JSON object Ballerina HTTP response. Oh, it's a function. I have to invoke it. There we go. Cool. Thank you, VS Code, for keeping me in check. Okay, so that works. So now we don't have the block scoping issue anymore. So yep, now it recognizes the symbol. Good, so now I should be able to run this. Okay, and you see we get this whole object here, which is the response from the report. Right now it's just a string. Okay, we need to actually, just more work you'd have to do to like play with it, but that's useful. Okay, so basically that's how the client works. And if I want to make calls to other endpoints, I would just kind of go through the same process over and over again. You know, and let's see if we can make this even more succinct. Let's try this. If control X, so if the return, no, that's actually probably the best way to do that. Okay, cool. That's nice and succinct. If you see like the learn Ballerina and by example, they create this whole separate function to do this. But yeah, there it is in one line. Not so bad. Still not a bad idea to create the function just to not have to do that for every response you get. So they just create like a something like this, like get, let's say public function, public get JSON function, public function get JSON. And what you'd want to pass in is an HTTP response object. Well, it's really an HTTP response or error object. That's the problem. And it's going to be called response, we'll say. Because see, again, that's technically the signature, and that's why you have to do this whole conditional. Because if you don't verify that it's not an error, it won't let you call the methods of that type. Just the way it works. Okay, and then I could just do this and just say return res is HTTP. I can just copy the rest of this. Response, if not, it's going to be res dot get JSON payload. No. Now what is not like that? Okay. Oh, I have to specify what it returns. Okay. Let me get rid of that returns. I just want to read what that said again. Payload, extract JSON payload from the response. Content type is not JSON, and HTTP client error is returned. So I gotta do that. So returns. The keyword is returns JSON. And unknown type is it just JSON. There we go. Guess then it wants me to do like an HTTP or no, or HTTP client error. So let me do that. Functions returning tainted value are required to annotate return signature at tainted get JSON. So once we do this at tainted. Oh, I see. I think it's supposed to be like here at tainted. Is that where I wanted to put the decorator? No, not there, I guess. I think it's made before. At tainted. Okay, there we go. So now it looks like it's working. So now I could do this. Get JSON response. And now I can just keep using that every time I want to use it. And then we're good. And there it goes, it works. Okay, so I guess things we just learned from doing this. So again, the return signature has got to be specific. So since there's a possibility this could return an error because I'm returning the result of this, it knows I'm returning possibly the return of this. I have to make sure that the signature says, hey, I could be returning JSON, but I might be returning client error. And since this is considered a tainted value, I got to annotate it with @tainted. So it's aware. Okay, and it's an annotation on the return value, not on the function, not on the class. It's an annotation. Java, they call them annotations, and like JavaScript, TypeScript, they call them decorators. Python, they call them decorators. You guys get the idea. Cool. So that's a little bit deeper than I wanted to go into the whole client library and how to kind of just create a new client object and use it. And you can do the same thing with like post and put and all the other verbs. So it just makes it really easy to work with sort of an external API, which is nice. So my name is Alex Merced. Have a great day and talk to you later.